time. So, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm very happy that everyone can join today to our webinar. So the topic of our webinar is today workspaces in conservation. I'm going to give the floor to our co-chair, Eliad, to introduce the ISN SSC Young Professional Task Force. So, Eliad, over to you.
Okay. Thanks, Rifa, for the introduction. As you said, I'm going to share with you a quick overview of the Young Professional Task Force. For that matter, we need to understand what the IUCN Youth Strategy is. Thanks for that. The Youth Strategy is a framework of inclusion for young professionals into the Union for addressing the vision and activities. The youth being understood as people between 15 and 24 years old, but young professionals, it's being understood as people between 18 and 35 years old that work in a particular space. And as we are all members of IUCN, so people that works into conservation. On this basis, the Young Professional Task Force set a mission to engage, support, and develop young professionals' expertise in research, policymaking, conservation planning, and implementation of multilateral environmental agreements in the Red List authorities and taxonomic groups. Next slide, please. So we bring as value a framework to engage young professionals into conservation, particularly in activities, join different generations and nature conservation. This allows young voices to be heard through meaningful roles in key IUCN events and initiatives. As young people can participate in and influence decision-making processes. So the youth strategy is based in four principles that are ensure that efforts are union-wide, involving actions by all parts of IUCN, mainstream engagement of young people into IUCN's programs, projects, and governance. Young people most co-design and lead the youth strategy and its implementation. And fourth, youth strategy outcome must be realistic, measurable, and sustainable, sufficiently resourced. Next slides, please. And for achieving that, the Young Professional Task Force put together a coordination team for each region. So here I'm presenting the regional coordinators for Asia. So first, we got Rifa Nasiba, who you already met, from Bangladesh, Dabal Barjija from India, and Kushal Selvaraja from Malaysia, who will be are the first line of contact that all members in the region. Next slide, please. Okay, the Young Professional Task Force has designed a scheme to engage young professionals like yourself to develop your skills and connect each of you with the specialist group that best fit with your background. So by mixing conservation actions, capacity building, and network development, we bring a benefit. Next slide, please. That's the one. Where we bring benefits to our members through courses, conferences, and governance opportunities. That being said, next slide. All I can say is thank you for being part of this initiative, and thanks you for being in this webinar. So back to you, Rifa.
Yeah, thank you so much, Elliot, for this introduction of our group, and it was amazing. So, next I'm going to our moderator of this webinar, Kushal. He is also my colleague. You already know he is our regional coordinator of Asia. So, Kushal, over to you.
Hi. Right. Thank you so much, Rifa, for hosting the session. So just before I start the panel session, I just would like to give a shout out and thank you to all the my colleagues, Rifa and also Dr. Dawal, for helping me for working together to organize this webinar. This is actually the first webinar we're hosting as part of the Asia Regional Coordinators under the YPTF task force that Eli just briefly introduced. Earlier, I would also like to say thank you to Justin, who's doing all the major work, change the slides and all the technicalities behind this. So thank you so much. And also to our esteemed panelists today, Caesar and also Pal for joining us. So it's very much forward that you guys are looking today. So the first theme, the theme of our webinar today is called Workspaces and Conservation. And the reason why we wanted to highlight this mainly is because this was actually Rifa's idea, to be honest. So she wanted to actually expose or try to raise awareness to all the young professionals out there who are interested in conservation work. I'm pretty sure most of you who have registered today are somewhat relevant to that field of study. And she wanted to highlight the fact that there's more to conservation than just research. There's a lot more that you can do besides research as well. So this is our way of trying to expand that knowledge and try to introduce some of the works that have been going around the world, that's being done globally. And so that's why we invited the two panelists today. I'm pretty sure you will be as impressed as we have following these two researchers for as long as we have done before. So without further delay, I would love to invite the first panelist of today, which is Cesar Rahman. So just very brief biography. So Cesar Rahman, Cesar actually founded the Creative Conservation Alliance, CCA, in Bangladesh with 14 years of experience. And they were the first one to launch a rewarding program for the endangered Asian giant tortoise, the elongated tortoise, and also the first in the country to actually establish a tortoise conservation breeding facility. And this has actually helped contribute to the recovery of five turtle and tortoise species in the country as well. And Cesar is actually acting as the regional vice chair for South Asia under the ICCN SSC Tortoise and Freshwater Turtle Specialist Group. So I'm pretty sure Pelf and Cesar might have known each other beforehand as well. And some of his accolades, his dedication has also earned him the Future of Nature Award back in 2017, the Whitley Award in 2018, and also the New Explorers Award in 2020. So without further ado, I would love to give the floor to Cesar to talk about his work in Bangladesh. Yeah, please.
Hello, thank you very much, YPTF, for arranging this webinar today. I'm very honored to be here today to share my experience. So I'll talk about the need for holistic approach in conservation, and because conservation requires a lot more than the knowledge of the species, because a lot of us, including myself, we are very passionate on the ecology aspect, we're passionate on the wildlife. But if we really want to do the conservation, then we really need to have understanding of not just the species ecology, but also the political ecology, the conservation, the community, and we need to engage all the stakeholders for sustainable conservation. So next slide, please. Yeah, so we really, when you start a conservation intervention, we really need to understand the conservation problem. So there is a term usually in the business management, there's a term called wicked problem. So wicked problems are the problem basically which are very complex problem. For example, which are difficult to define, which are difficult to find a solution. So if you see the diagram here, if you see all the circle, for example, that there is no clear problem for our definition. We know that conservation is like that way. It's so complex. And also solution are not right or wrong, but better or worse. So conservation is such a wicked problem that it's very difficult to define. So whenever we have such problem, conservation problem, then we really have to understand that just one size wouldn't fit all. Like we also would need science, we also need political commitment or advocacy, we need to engage community, we need to engage the younger generation, and of course, science is a big part that can play in conservation. Next slide, please. So in general, like we know that sometimes conservation doesn't work, but what are the key ingredients for a conservation intervention for failure? So these are some bullet points which are being collected from published studies. So a lot of projects which are done short term and reactive projects, for example, let's say whenever there's an issue that we face, let's say locally, for example, to give example in our country, Bangladesh. So what usually happens whenever, let's say for Asian elephants, there have been recent increase of human-elephant conflict. As a result, there's been a lot of publications in the media. And so what happens, and then the government and the conservation groups are reactive. Okay, let's solve this problem. And they immediately initiate some reactive projects to find or to solve the human wildlife or human elephant conflict issue. But sometimes when you don't go to the root cause of this problem, because we need to figure out, okay, why this elephant human conflict is happening. And if we tend to focus too much on the surface level, and no matter how much you work, and eventually it's never going to be solved. So this is a very common tendency of a lot of projects which are done short-term project based, because as I mentioned, some of the problems are so complex. There are people living in poverty, and then the people are, and the country is developing. There's a huge need for economic growth and natural resources. So these problems, solving those problems will require like decades of time. So having short term or like working on the surface level would not find the sustainable solution for conservation. So again, there's a intervention not attempting to address all major driver of the species. For example, let's say one species is declining, there could be multiple threats. Let's say the habitat is declining. Let's say there's a poaching, which is a big problem, and then there could be the populations could be isolated, and in some cases you might need conservation breeding and reintroduction. Otherwise it would be difficult for the species to come back and recover. So if we just focus on just the breeding part and release an animal or reintroduce animal, and if you don't solve the other issues, let's say the poaching or the hunting, then no matter how successful you are in like the breeding aspect, then this whole conservation would not sustain. Similarly, if you solve the other issue, but if you don't solve the habitat problem, let's say the habitat is poor, so you need to restore the habitat as well. So it will be a successful project, and long term it would sustain once we address all those issues. And of course, this is a common problem, has been an issue or still an issue for this whole colonial ideology of conservation. People or the groups coming from the West, going to different places, have their own ideologies and implementing, which often don't reflect the ground scenario. So these are some of the very common issues for conservation projects or conservation intervention not to be successful. Next slide, please. So today I'll talk about a case study from Bangladesh on the species Asian giant tortoise, and I'll talk about how we kind of used a holistic approach to conserve this species. And so this species is the largest tortoise in Asia, fourth largest in the world. It's native to South and Southeast Asia. In Bangladesh, they're found in the eastern part of the country, and in India, in the northeast India, and then the entire Southeast Asia from Myanmar, Thailand for this subspecies Manure hemisphere. And they are a tropical forest. They live in this moist primary forest. So this species is declared as critically endangered, and they're declining largely because of habitat destruction, and of course hunting is one of the major driver for the species decline. Next slide, please. And in Bangladesh, subsistence hunting is a big problem because they are found in the area who inhabited by the communities which practice subsistence hunting, and that has been used to be once upon a time sustainable because there have been less people and more forests. Now the human population has increased. As a result, the subsistence hunting is causing local extinction. And in Bangladesh, the species has been extirpated from the entire distribution range, only found in 1 or 2 locality, remnant population in the border side of Bangladesh and Myanmar. Next slide, please. So about 12 years back, we realized this is a problem, and the species will be gone entirely from the country. And we started this intervention. And obviously, the line which you see right now, I mean, of course, at the beginning, we didn't have this diagram. And looking back, we connected the dots, and now this appears. So these are the steps we took. And so first, what we did, we realized the species number are not there. Whatever population left are remnant population, and it's just matter of time the species would be gone. And so we started working with the local hunter and started finding those individuals and basically rescuing those individuals from the hunters, and then translocate that, establish the conservation breeding center in Bangladesh, and started putting those back in the breeding center to ensure they breed in captivity, and then so that in the future we can release the individuals back in the wild. And that's step 3. The breeding successfully started breeding in 2019, and step 4 is basically having a conservation agreement, because the areas where we would release those tortoises are the area where they have already been hunted to extinction. So if the communities don't protect them, then there's no point of release. It would never be successful. So started having an agreement and started convincing the communities that, okay, this species need to be protected. And if you see the green line at the bottom, like how do you ensure that the communities give the agreement or convince? Because we have been supporting them. And they are poor people, and hunting has been part of their culture. But when they see these people or the conservation agencies coming to genuinely help them, and they are convinced, and they see that our effort, not for the tortoise only, but also for the people, for the betterment of both. And that works. Next slide, please. And if this is just quickly go through this. Of course, this line was as linear as it appears right now. So if you see that entire journey from almost took for 10 years, we are almost 25 now, so almost 14, 15 years. So initially started with basically conducting reconnaissance survey, and then started working with the communities and hiring them as parabiologists. And then these are some school for conservation, basically some of the primary school that is supported to incentivize the communities. And in the recent years, we have been supporting them with livelihood like agroforestry, livestock vaccination, and eventually started the breeding center in 2017. And then the first release we have done in 2021 for the first ever re-yielding of the species in the region. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is one of the first step that we did that involves training the local hunter, because the region is very remote and it's a site for civil conflict. Insurgents are present there, and as a result, it has been very difficult for the researchers and conservation groups to work in the area long term. So we realized that, of course, you have to engage the communities, and these peoples are very well informed and very well knowledgeable about the forest and the species, and we use that traditional knowledge, and then we train them for basic collecting GPS, measuring the tortoises, and then other doing basic survey methodology. these people are trained and they collected, or they are the foundation of our projects. Next slide, please. So what happened? Eventually, we built a network of communities of the parabiologists in very remote villages, and we started finding out information of the tortoises being captured by the hunter. And then we started, we would send our people, and those people would inform us, and then eventually, with the permission of the forest department, we would transfer them to our breeding center. So these are some of the pictures you see that that process of how the tortoises would be rescued. And on the right is our conservation breeding facility, which is located in the central part of Bangladesh. So, and our field site is in the southeast of Bangladesh, which is kind of far from the center. Next slide, please. And these are some pictures that the tortoises are living in harmony and captivity. So we initially captured, we initially found or translocated 16 individuals. 6 of them were Manuria amis, and there are other species as well. So right now we have about 14 adults of Asian giant tortoise as a founder population in the captive colony. About 3 of them are male, and rest of them are females, and they are peaceful species. Next slide, please. But sometimes they're not always very peaceful. The males do combat, and it can be very brutal and violent. And we now keep them in different sections with 1 male and 2 or 3 females. Next slide, please. And if you see that one important aspect for breeding is that we have to understand the need, and captive management is very critical part of the program that we really have to understand. This is a picture of the breeding facility we have, and we have to ensure that their needs are met, and so that they can breed successfully. Next slide, please. This is another picture of another section of our conservation breeding facility, and we have to ensure it's a different habitat than the tortoises are found. So it's in the other parts of Bangladesh. So we have to use different methods. For example, we have to use mist netting. This particular area is relatively dry, so we have to ensure the area remains very moist. Next slide, please. Yeah, and nutrition is very important, and they are primarily herbivores. They feed on fruits, fallen fruits. They feed on mushrooms, bamboo shoots, timber, other greens and veggies. So we try to feed them as diverse as possible. So this is a picture from our breeding facility of the center. Next slide, please. And this is one of the best part, and I think we're very, very excited that the first time we had this in, that was in 2019, and they lay about 50 to 70 eggs once the eggs are laid. So this genus is only genus in the world which lay nest on the ground. So basically they make a mound with leaf litter, and then they would lay the eggs in that mound. And once the eggs are laid, we would collect them and we put them in the incubator. Next slide, please. And this is on the best side. I think the picture on the left was the first hatchling we had in 2019. I know that every day we check on the eggs, and the experience that we had was very, very magical to have breed them in the captivity for the first time. So these are the substrate that we use in the incubator. This is a basic incubator facility, and it takes about 60 to 70 days for the eggs to hatch. Next slide, please. And it's another picture of our indoor hatchling rearing facility, because they can be very sensitive. For example, if we immediately put them outside, if the temperature drops for rain, and then sometimes they get cold, and we had some high mortality. So this indoor facility we have built in the last few years, and it has been helping to reduce the hatchling mortality. Next slide, please. Yep, here are some of the hatchlings that we keep in captivity. And if you see the pictures on the left, so to ensure they grow and well, we moist them. So basically we soak them almost every day for 20 to 30 minutes. We put them in the sun for that is required for their proper growth. And then we feed them basically salads. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the rewilding, and these hatchlings are eventually released. First cohort we released in 2021, and the second cohort have released in last year, December in 24. So far I have released 2 cohorts, and the initial pilot was successful. And what we do, we initially had, every time we release, we have a release ceremony, and then that we engage the communities, they engage the local stakeholders, and they participate in the event. And then, of course, before the release, as I mentioned earlier, that we have adopted conservation agreements with the villagers, and they agreed that they would not hunt the tortoises. And we have the parabiologists there, basically the hunter turned into conservationist, and they conduct post-release monitoring. Next slide, please. Yeah, and this is how do we incentivize them? We provide them different support, and we, of course, been working with the communities. We learn what they exactly need, and on the left, that we have been supporting their primary school, and also that we have been supporting them, providing them free seedlings of high quality fruit species that they can grow and earn extra cash. Next slide, please. And yeah, and the site selection process was very rigorous. It took us 3-4 years. We worked with the communities in the different villages, but we prioritized the sites. Obviously, there has to have some good forest habitat, but most importantly, that leadership of the village is very, very important. So it's not just about having the knowledge for the species ecology, it's also understanding the community dynamics, the local politics, that you would know that, okay, in the village, whatever agreement they're being agreed on, that they would continue that. And that interest has to be there. And not all villages, this model would work. So we have to constantly have that ground knowledge and then make our decision based on that. Next slide, please. Yep, as I mentioned, the parabiologists are trained, and some photos from the field that usually track them 3 to 4 times a week, and we collect the data, their GPS and other information on their habit and their behavior. And this is some of the map from our first release. If you see, the village is right there, and tortoises released there, and they would move around, and we have been analyzing the data. So initial success result was 90% survival. One of them had initial mortality in the first cohort, but the most interesting part is that we had 0 poaching rate, and we have evidence because we've been monitoring the tortoises, so we know that the communities are not hunting, and I think which has been the best result. And yeah, so that's basically it. And basically what I wanted to summarize is that through the case study which I just presented, that we can, what exactly did, it's complex. The area that we work, it's politically very complex. Then the people are poor, they are dependent on the forest resources, and then you only have some remnant population. And then, so if I only focused on the conservation breeding, it wouldn't have worked. If we only focused on the community aspect, then it wouldn't have worked either, because the remaining number, while individuals have reached to that level, that you must rewild or restock. So this is the approach. So the take-home message is that conservation problems are complex. If we want to solve it, we need to work long time. And this is just 15 years of our journey. And if we really want to establish the population, which is our long-term goal, establishment of a sustainable population without human intervention, that would take maybe 2 more decades of work. And conservation takes time, and we must have holistic approach for long-term sustainability. Thank you so much for allowing me to present my case study here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Caesar, for that amazing presentation. I think you said it all. I think conservation takes an infinite amount of passion and also dedication to the work. And just you explaining your timeline, this was easily more than 10 years ago. Now we're looking back and to see how you started from and where it's grown up to until today. I think you have to give like a big round of applause to the team and yourself as well for making it this far with the species as well. And in your presentation, you mentioned how different communities, you have to approach them differently. The same model does not apply to all the communities as well. I think that's a very important key message, and it's one of the reasons why we wanted to invite Caesar and also Pelf today, because of how their work has affected the communities around them and the different ways of approach they have taken, and to show that there isn't just one way, there isn't a silver bullet to conservation. And as Caesar mentioned, it takes decades, of conservation and effort to actually protect the species as well. So without further ado, would like just to remind all the participants that are in the call today that you can leave your questions in the Q&A box as well, or in the chat box, whichever you prefer. And towards the end of the webinar, we will try to address as many of them as possible. So without further ado, I would like to pass the floor to Pelf. But before that, I would just like to give like a short introduction to Pelf. So Pelf is a freshwater turtle researcher and conservationist based in Malaysia, and she is the co-founder of Turtle Conservation Society of Malaysia, which leads an impactful and community-based driven initiative to protect these endangered river terrapins, which I'm sure she'll be more than happy to talk about in a moment. So she's been combining scientific research with grassroots conservation, and more importantly, women empowerment and youth education in creating this model of conservation that benefits both the community or people involved and also the wildlife that they're trying to protect. So they also oversee programs that support local women through women empowerment to provide sustainable income opportunities, to uplift the community, and to sustain a long-term conservation outcome. And she also has received the Commonwealth Point of Light Award recently, and that is to turn passion of turning local engagement into real world impact. So without further ado, I would love to give the floor to Pelf, and so she can start her presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Kushal. You can hear me all right?
Yes, we can hear you. Perfect.
Okay, so there are so many similarities between our project and Caesar's project. I feel like everybody present today has to listen to two very similar projects, just in different countries. Well, I'm honored to be here for the first installment of the workspaces in conservation. I think it is such an important theme because when we talk about conservation, we often imagine researchers in the field, like Caesar. But conservation happens in many different workspaces, for example, in my circumstances, and I'm here to share what it looks like from my journey. Okay, okay, you are here on this slide already. So for a long time, the narrative around conservation has focused on science because we need research to understand the species, threats, and possible solutions. But over the years, I have come to realize that protecting wildlife isn't just about data or fieldwork. It isn't just about the species. It is also about people. It is also about building trust, changing behavior, and creating systems where nature and communities can thrive. So that doesn't work always in the forest and in rivers. So not this slide yet. You're too fast. So sometimes it happens in sewing rooms, in classrooms, on Instagram, on social media, and around dinner tables in rural villages. So today I would like to take you on a little journey, stepping through many different workspaces that I've had the privilege of stepping into as a conservationist. From muddy riverbanks to school halls to from grassroots organizing to product packaging. So my hope is that by the end of this talk, you will see that conservation is not one thing. It is many things, and more importantly, there's space in it for everybody. All right, next slide, please. So let's start at the beginning. I didn't grow up thinking I would be a turtle conservationist, but I've always been drawn to turtles. I went on to study marine biology for my bachelor's degree. And in the course of the program, I became inspired by sea turtles, marine turtles. But then I learned something surprising too, that Malaysia is home to 18 species of freshwater turtles and tortoises, including Manoria amis that you just saw in Caesar's slides just now, just a different subspecies. And many of these turtles, most Malaysians have not met yet or have not heard of yet. So these are not exactly charismatic mega fauna with tourism dollars behind them. Well, these turtles live in rivers, in swamps, in paddy fields, and well, like the southern river terrapin, the species that I've been working with since 2011, also 2011. These are ancient giants that have existed since the time of the dinosaurs, and they are disappearing quietly. And that's when I realized that if nobody's working to protect these species, then maybe I should. Next, please. So in 2011, I co-founded Turtle Conservation Society of Malaysia, or in short, TCS. We began with almost zero, nothing, no office, no staff, very limited funding, no steady funding at all. But in those early years, our work was mostly conservation focused. We went to riverbanks, nesting sites, terrapin nesting sites, monitored wild populations, collected eggs for incubation so that we are able to release head-started terrapins into the river. But it quickly became clear that science alone is not enough. And we couldn't be everywhere. So that was when we made it a point to involve the local villagers and who later called themselves the Terrapin Guardians. Similar to Caesar's projects, these local villagers used to be poachers too. Yeah, they were former poachers who, after being involved in our work, became terrapin guardians, protecting terrapins, protecting terrapin eggs. And over time, this shifted into a community-led initiative. Next, please. River terrapins are critically endangered, just like the Manoria, but they still survive in small scattered populations in only 2 countries in the world. And these 2 countries are Cambodia and Malaysia. So currently in Malaysia, they are only found in 4 states. So what is sad is how little people know about the river terrapins. While sea turtles often steal the spotlight, our freshwater turtles, they usually go unnoticed. And but yet they play a crucial role in the ecosystem by helping to maintain the balance and health of the rivers. They also protecting them is not just about saving a single species, but it's also safeguarding entire habitats. Next, please. So let's start with the most obvious workspace. By the river, in the river. This is where the terrapins nest, where our conservation journey begins. And it's where we walk the river banks from sundown to sunrise the next morning to look for female terrapins that emerge to lay eggs. It is where we track their movements, their sightings, collect data that help us understand these species. And we can't do this alone. So these guys that you see on the screen right now, this photo shows the first batch, the original batch of the Terrapin Guardians. All of them are still helping us in this project, except for the second guy from the left, the one in the blue jacket. He is retired, but the others are still very much involved. So they are trained to identify nesting signs, protect eggs, and they alert us whenever they find a nest. So over time, they became our eyes and our ears on the ground. So this picture shows the terrapin guardians nesting, measuring a post-nesting terrapin. That's after she has laid her eggs. So we measure her, we weigh her, we also insert a microchip for individual identification. These data help us track these turtles over time and to understand their growth as well as to assess the health of the population. But what is truly meaningful is who is doing the measuring. These are local villagers, and many of them used to harvest turtle eggs for consumption because they didn't know better. So today they have become trained conservationists and they are really proud of the work that they do. Next, please. Okay, so this is another photo showing terrapin guardians attempting, trying to weigh post-nesting female terrapin. Next, please. Okay.
Dulu saya selalu ambil telur kat sungai, kita makan ataupun kita jual.
I have always told people that the local villagers who make up Gang Tuntong are the best thing that has happened to our society since we started the project. Most of them were egg collectors previously before they started collaborating with us, but in the past 4 to 5 years, we have seen how their attitudes have changed, and I am really happy to say that they are now our turtle ambassadors. One of the members of our Gang Tuntong, Pak Wazir was originally from a different village. He wasn't born in Kampung Pasir Gajah. So he recently told me that when he first came to the village, he was treated as a nobody because he wasn't from here. But after collaborating with our society, after participating in the good work that we do, in saving river terrapins from becoming extinct, he is now regarded as somebody respected in the village. And this is just a very small example of how a conservation project can impact somebody's life. Imagine if we expand the project, and imagine if we have a bigger scale, and how this conservation project can impact not only certain families, but the local community as well.
Kalau dulu zaman saya, orang tak kenal saya. Wazir mana? Tak tahu. Sekarang ni, wazir mana? Wazir Tuntong. Pasal pandangan saya, buat projek Tuntong ni memang ada kebaikan dia. Kalau dikatakan kalaulah pupus Tuntong dekat sungai ni, anak cucu kita macam mana? Apakah mereka akan tahu ada tutung atau tidak? Jadi saya yakin benda ni tak perlu lagi kita makan ke, kita jual ke. Pasal kita takut nanti kalau kita makan, kita jual, nanti akan datang tutung ke sungai Semama ni akan pupus. Memang saya memang gembira. Kalau ikut itu saya lah, memang cukup gembira. Mana kalau satu musim je kalau saya tak pergi kat sungai, tak buat projek ni, memang saya kecewa lah. Masa saya memang gembira kerana saya ada menyertai program macam tu, projek macam itu.
So while the terrapin guardians were out in the field, we are also involving the local women in the village. Together, we started a sewing group. Using turtle motif batik designs, we began creating handmade crafts such as tote bags, pouches, lanyards and card holders, book sleeves, etc. At first, it was just a small initiative, but over time, it became something meaningful for these local women in the communities. And it grew into something much bigger. It became a community livelihood project because in 1 year they were making about 350 ringgit per month. But the following year, on average, they were making 750 ringgit per month. So it has more than doubled their income, and they were able to supplement their husband's income. So that's one of the good things that happened to this local women empowerment program. Next, please. So in this photo, you will see Ika. Ika is one of our tailors. She's surrounded by beautiful turtle batik items, and every item was handmade by Ika. And Ika has a very interesting story to share, which I would like to share with you. Previously, Ika used to live in a lower lying area in the village, and each time it rains for 4 or 5 days, her house was one of those houses that were the first to get flooded. She was very terrified of the flood, and she was very scared that she had to evacuate to higher grounds, especially at night. So what she usually did in the past was she would leave the house before it even got flooded because she was worried that she had to evacuate on a boat at night. But being one of our women tailors, she is able to make sufficient income to support her husband, and they have now moved to another place in the village on higher grounds. So she said that this sewing program has changed her life. Next, please.
Suami Kak Na tak bekerja mungkin dalam masa tu, Kak Na ingat dalam 3 bulan jugalah. Memang sedih lah masa tu, tapi orang kata sedih pun kata nak buat macam mana, kata pandemik kan, kita harus hadap juga. Nama saya Azlina Zakaria, nama ringkas Kak Na.
So the community empowerment program was initiated to support the ladies. And besides that, we also wanted to use merchandise to spread conservation awareness on turtles. So Yayasan Hasana's funding came at the right time, and I managed to host 3 workshops that helped these ladies.
Dengan di situ bermulanya saya berjahit dengan orang kata dengan mesin jahit lama tu dulu, sebelum dapat mesin jahit ni.
They are enrolled in a creative sewing course, but there were other skills that I thought they would appreciate.
Apa program yang Dr. Pray buat, Kak Na join je. Orang kata untuk pemasaran barang-barang kita, untuk cara ambil gambar tu memang ada.
I invited a Nikon ambassador, and he taught the ladies how to take good pictures with only a mobile phone.
Alhamdulillah, orang kata rezeki tu ada. Macam sekarang ni, kalau ada kerja, ada apa-apa peluang, ambil je. Jadi, bila upah tu kita simpan, kita akan kata kalau ada susah tu kita boleh guna.
This program has given them a new source of income. It has taught them to be independent. And I guess this is why we started the community empowerment program in the first place, to empower them. Right, so this is another workspace. So children are naturally curious. The ones that I meet are definitely curious. When we visit schools with live turtles, live terrapins, their eyes usually light up with wonder. Their hands always want to touch the terrapins that we bring to school. And holding a terrapin in their hand, or just seeing it swim around in the container that we bring to the school, well, they have many questions. And these questions are always full of awe, of empathy, of care. And they ask really the funniest questions. For example, do they lay eggs only at night? Do the males lay eggs? Yeah, we had gotten questions like that. But there were some serious ones too, like how long do they live? So these are important questions that we want to spark in classroom. So by connecting these young minds, like you see in this photo, there are 500 of them in this, not 500. I don't remember how many hundred in this class, in this school. But by connecting these young minds to turtles, we plant the seed of respect and responsibility. that we hope will grow into the next generation of conservationists and policymakers. Next, please. This is Wawa. Wawa is our education officer. She is sharing her passion and her knowledge during a talk in a classroom. And her energy and her warmth usually lights up the room, making conservation come alive for these young students. And it is exactly turtle camps or programs like this that show that education is not just about sharing facts. It is also about inspiring hope in schools, inspiring curiosity, as well as a deep connection to wildlife. Next. Yeah, and this photo, we see that a young boy is picking up a terrapin from, from a little container. And one of our volunteers, she was afraid that he might drop it. So she puts her hand just in case this young boy drops the terrapins. Yeah, so hands-on experiences like this create lasting memories and foster personal connection between the students and the wildlife. And this kind of connection we are unable to build if we do not go to schools to talk to kids, or if the kids do not come to our center. So these programs are very important so that kids get their first exposure to critically endangered turtles in classrooms. Next, please. And let's be honest here, conservation isn't all about saving turtles, right? We all love turtles, we all love wildlife, but it is not just about saving wildlife. Behind the scenes, there are also a mountain of administrative tasks, paperwork. I spend many hours at my desk every day, writing emails, writing grant proposals, writing reports, a lot of writing I'm doing these days to secure funding to enable us to do research, conservation, go to school and play with kids. But this is very, well, not as glamorous as being in the field, but absolutely essential if you ask me. There are also countless virtual meetings to discuss alignments, to plan events, to troubleshoot challenges. These are some of the things that we just have to do. When orders come in for our batik merchandise, somebody has to pack them and ship them out to the buyers. So this is where ideas turn into action. And having all these administrative tasks and having somebody to do these administrative tasks helps pull the team together. So this is very important work too. Next. And well, as a take-home message, conservation is not confined to a single location, a specific type of person or a specific type of wildlife that we are trying to protect from extinction. It happens in many different spaces, from riverbanks to classrooms, to sewing rooms, to pop-up events, to boutiques where we sell our turtle batik merchandise, to social media and to engagements like this. But and each workspace is unique, each workspace is important, but we are all connected by the same goal, the same objective, which is to protect our species from becoming extinct. So on the screen, you see a vibrant network of people doing what they can. Some of these are our terrapin guardians. Some of these are our core team. We have scientists, we have villagers, we have tailors, students, we have supporters. They're all playing important roles in the conservation of terrapins. And together, we create a stronger, more resilient conservation movement, one that is inclusive, holistic, just like what Caesar mentioned earlier, and deeply rooted in community. Next, please. So as you reflect on your own role in conservation, ask yourself some of these important questions. what kind of change do I want to create? What unique strengths or skills or passions that I bring to the table, and which local projects or communities I can support or be involved in. Well, remember that meaningful action doesn't require permission from anyone. It just requires your commitment, your perseverance, your patience, and every small step that is made with intention contributes to a bigger movement. Okay, that's just a photo of me releasing a river terrapin. Next, please. Thank you for listening to our story. I hope it has shown you that conservation isn't just limited to field biologists or remote jungles or remote villages. It is a shared experience that thrives in classrooms, in many workspaces, and the world needs many different types of conservationists, not just the types that look like Caesar or the types that look like Tel. It could be a different type too. So no matter your background or your skill set, there's a place for you in this work, okay? So because protecting the planet and all our wildlife, working together in all these spaces that we occupy. So thank you very much for your time. The next slide will show my phone number and email if you would like to get in touch with me, or if you have questions that I am unable to answer at the end of this webinar. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Pelf. Again, very inspiring talk. To be honest, I've heard Pelf give this presentation countless of time, but honestly, without fail, every single time I hear, I get my passion gets reignited and I get pumped all over again, rightfully so. So thank you so much for that. So with the interest of time, we are falling a bit behind, so I will straight jump to the Q&A session. We do have one question, time for one question, but I think it's quite a long question, and this is both to Susan and also Pelf. So one of the questions, I think both of you have addressed this lightly in your presentation, but I will try to add into this question. So like, what kind of agreement that you have made, or some kind of what kind of incentives you have provided for the locals in the communities that you are working with, and how has that communication started? And I think I wanted to add more of a dimension to this as someone who were not originally from that community. How were you able to sort of get this conversation going to the point where you were able to have this sort of agreement and also provide incentives for those locals in your specific areas? Caesar or Pelf, whoever wants to go first, please.
Yeah, I'll go. Okay, so yeah, thank you. That's a good question. Yeah, so first of all, what have the communities that we work with, especially in the southeast of Bangladesh and entire region like Southeast Asia, Myanmar, they are indigenous communities and they depend on subsistence hunting as part of their culture. So it's not just the turtles, tortoises, they hunt other wildlife as well. It used to be sustainable perhaps once upon a time, but this approach is not sustainable anymore. So this hunting could create extinction. So when you go there, and we're not going there with the intention of stopping all sorts of hunting, because it's not going to work. It's part of their culture, and sometimes hunting can be sustainable. So we focus only on the species when you go there and then talk with the communities, only on the species which are very endangered. Let's say pangolin, hornbills. You have a list of species like gibbons that we work with them. Say, okay, how about let's not hunt that, and that's more realistic way, and then they agree in more or less, right, yeah, these are declining in our generation, and if you went there with the intention of, hey, you can hunt everything, it's never going to work. So and now yeah, so and then once we do that, so the problem is a lot of these big livelihood projects which happen, and with the idea or assumption that you provide livelihood in the communities and it reduce their dependency on the forest, and then people would not hunt those animals. But in most cases, it's not the case. What happens, so when you support or provide that support, and some communities, there are evidence of livelihood projects which have shown that economically they are benefited, economically they're better, but there requires only few individuals to do the hunting. So you see that you go in the village and providing some livelihood to community, but in the same time, they are hunting. So our goal is to we provide the livelihood not for free, because whenever we do that and NGOs go to area and start providing free packages, a free, let's say, free livelihood service or free livestock, they used to the idea of charity, and I think which is not sustainable. So we go there, okay, we're supporting this, your school or something, or you're providing livestock vaccination. In exchange, how about you agreeing on this? Because not eating a tortoise is a cost for them, right? It would have probably given them a protein or micronutrients. So by providing that livelihood or money, it kind of offset that cost they incur. So it's not totally free. It's just the agreement, and of course, and some villages it don't work. So the conservation agreement is basically say they're agreeing on it. Okay, we're not gonna hunt that particular species. And of course, we're not gonna go there and enforce that, because it's kind of like a slow approach. And then of course we have our presence with our parabiologist or our team members, which constantly monitor them, and they see these guys are tracking the tortoises. It's a very normal, they're not gonna eat that. So it can work for certain species with the agreement, which clearly which clarify that they are not gonna eat that particular species. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Caesar. What about Tal?
Yeah, it's similar, similar project, similar approach. So I've always been an advocate for people not working for free, because there is no free lunch, right? And just like Caesar said, we do not want to train people to expect things, expect money, especially for not doing the work. Just by existing, you get paid, right? So that is also not fair. So right from the beginning, I work with the local communities by showing them, telling them, demonstrating to them that this could potentially turn into something bigger. We started really small, but we also secured funding to pay for the eggs as like a compensation for their loss of nutrition, like Caesar mentioned. The terrapins don't lay many eggs, so the eggs don't get sold in markets, so nobody gets rich by selling terrapin eggs. But it could be the nutrition, or it could be just, I don't know, the bragging rights that they get to collect terrapin eggs. So we offer them a compensation. And over time, this compensation also includes allowances for doing the work, and not just the price per egg that they surrender to us. And then in the past few years, we started involving them in many other activities. For example, removing ghost nets from the river. So these extra jobs give them steady income. It gives them a job security, which we all crave. Doesn't matter where you live, in which city, we want a steady income to be financially sustainable. So I think from there, they are beginning to see that we are able to give them that. So then they are very happy to work with us. I hope they are happy to work with us. Yeah, but so what it takes, from somebody who is like from an outsider, coming into a local village and working with the local communities on saving wildlife species, a turtle species, I think it takes a lot of patience. First and foremost, it takes a lot of patience. We have done that slow talk that Caesar mentioned. For 14 years, we have done this. And so we hope that it is somewhat changing some people's behavior. But in patience itself, you also need to have perseverance, because some years you get very little funding, or worse, some years you get very few eggs, like turtle eggs, terrapin eggs, whatever you are trying to save. Some eggs you get very few of those, and it can be quite tough. It can be quite tough. And perseverance, patience, and I guess mutual respect. When we talk to the local villagers, we don't sound like a know-it-all. We are not know-it-alls, right? They live there, they know the terrapins much better than we do. So don't have that, coming off as I'm a scientist, I'm a PhD holder. So go in with an open heart, open mind to embrace the knowledge that we're going to exchange and share. So I think that will help build the civic pride of the locals. Once the locals feel proud of the project that they are involved in, then you know that they are a very strong stakeholder. Yeah, so that's just our strategy.
No, yeah, thank you so much, Pal. Yeah, that makes total sense as well. Yeah. not to have a knowledge at all, and also to respect the local knowledge that they have for those kind of species as well. Thank you so much. Again, due to the interest of time, we did receive a couple more questions. But again, because of the time, we might not be able to answer them. But I do implore you, whoever's still on the call, please reach out to Pelf and Caesar personally. I've linked their websites, which have their details that you can reach out to them. Some of these questions are interesting, but unfortunately, we do not have the time. I'm very sorry about that. But please reach out to them with your questions. I'm very sure they'll be able to get back to you with very interesting answers based on their experiences as well. So we just quickly this Friday is actually World Turtle Day, May 23rd. So I would just like to give the opportunity to both Caesar and Pelf, because again, conservation does not run on magic. We need funding to be very realistic. So just quickly, within 1 or 2 minutes, you have any events, or if there's a place for all our listeners today to actually donate to or buy some kind of merchandise that you might be selling, please let them know. And then we'll wrap up the webinar session really quickly after that. Thank you.
Lisa?
Or, if there's volunteering experiences that they can apply for as well. I think that would be very
Well,
interesting.
you already shared our website in the chat. So I think you get everything you want to look for in the website, I hope. There's a link to donate. Click the link to donate. Also, if you follow us on social media, especially Instagram, I think we rolled something out today, which is free coloring sheets for yourself, or you're not married, so your nephews, your nieces, your cousins. So we want people to keep talking about turtles. And I think Manoria Emis is one of those pictures we presented in the coloring sheets. I could be wrong. There's so many species in Malaysia, but please download that and have fun coloring and talking about turtles. And thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much, Pelf. Caesar?
Yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity as well. And also, it was great listening to Phelps' story as well. It's very similar and just different area, different context. So yeah, I think we do have opportunities for volunteering in our program. So do contact through the website, basically info@conservationalliance.org. We're also in the social media page on Facebook and Instagram. So do write to us. And from time to time, there are internship, long-term and short-term volunteer opportunities. So yeah, thanks again. Looking forward to it.
Right. Thank you so much again, Caesar and Pelf, for your very interesting presentation today. Again, to all our participants that are here, please reach out to them if you have any other questions, or if you're interested in any of the opportunities that they are providing for you. I personally, if I was in Bangladesh, would go out to CCA for sure, 100%, if I had the chance. And I'll be actually dropping by Pelf's center in June as well. So I'm very much excited to connect then as well. So again, without further ado and delay, thank you so much for your time. I'm very sorry to everyone involved that we were running late, a bit behind time. So thank you so much today to all the participants, and also to the panelists for joining us today, and also to Justin, who's working behind the scenes as well to make this happen, and also to my colleagues who Rifai, Elite, and Ibuku, and Dr. Dawal, who made this webinar all possible for us today. So thank you so much. We are planning a couple more series under the Asia YPTF on different topics as well that some of you have voted on before. So look forward to those. Those are also in planning. So thank you so much again for your time and attention today. Right. Have a great day. Good week.
All right.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.